A look at the top political headlines. Joining us this morning from Washington are ABC correspondent Jay O'Brien and ABC contributing political correspondent Rachael Bade. Thank you both for being with us. Jay, let's start with you and talk about the top headline in the news. Those tariffs, of course, the trade war ramping up with China retaliating with 34% tariffs of their own. The Dow dropping another 5.5% Friday. How big of a gamble is this for the president?
I mean, it's a serious gamble, Janae. And what we've heard consistently from President Trump, even back to the campaign, is that tariffs are the centerpiece of his trade and his economic strategy here. Remember, he said that tariffs was, quote, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. But the Republicans I talked to acknowledge that the administration is shooting for a long-term goal here to grow economic prosperity here at home and to grow manufacturing here at home. But even if that happens, that's going to take years. So these same Republicans acknowledge that there's a very serious short-term concern here where voters start to feel the pinch of higher prices and perhaps start to turn on this policy because it's not working out in their economics at home.
And speaking of those Republicans, Rachael, let's bring you in because not all Republicans, as Jay noted, are on board with the tariffs. There are reports of some infighting. Is it possible that members of Congress could make a move on this separately?
I mean, look, guys, if a Democratic president was doing this, the reality is that Republicans would be talking about impeachment right now. I mean, this is Donald Trump, of course. And even though 99% of Republicans on Capitol Hill will privately tell you that they loathe what Donald Trump is doing on tariffs, the reality is that most of them are concerned about actually criticizing him. And so that's why you're not actually seeing that happen right now. I mean, some of them have come out and said that they're going to join with Democrats to, sponsor bills to try to tie Trump's hands. Some of them have offered criticism, but it's just a few people at this time. But what you could actually see is if prices start to go up and constituents really start to get concerned, if the economy starts to really tank, Republicans could sort of engage in this private lobbying effort with the White House to try to get President Trump to sort of back off. But at this point, they're not doing that yet. They're trying to give him some space.
Fascinating to watch it all unfold. And Jay, earlier in the show, we were talking about those protests that are planned across the country against President Trump, Elon Musk, and their overhaul of the federal government. When you look at these recent cuts, though, what's the administration's goal?
Look, the overall goal, as DOJ has said, as the administration has said, as the president has said, is to reduce the size of government. But what we've seen DOJ do a lot is unplug things and then plug them back in when they realize that they fired staffers that perhaps shouldn't have been fired. We saw it with those nuclear engineers in the early days of these DOJ cuts. We even heard Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. tell ABC's Cheyenne Haslett this week, that 20% of the 10,000 or so HHS employees that were recently fired would be coming back. Now, HHS is pushing back on that and saying that actually only a small number of those fired employees would return. And it underscores the fact here, Gio, that there has been this chaos of firing employees, bringing some back, saying some aren't coming back, that's really left this government in upheaval.
Unplug, plug back in. Jay O'Brien with the imagery that really paints the picture. And Rachael, there was some shock when President Trump fired the director of the National Security Agency along with 6 staffers after intervention from conspiracy theorist Laura Loomer. How is that playing out on Capitol Hill?
I mean, guys, not well, as you can imagine. I mean, Laura Loomer has a big public following on the outside, but here in Washington on Capitol Hill, people know that she once suggested 9/11 was an inside job. So there's a real concern that she even had access to the president and the Oval Office. But the interesting thing here is actually who she's pushing out and who is actually getting sacked. I mean, these are all allies of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. This is a guy who is a traditional neoconservative who is actually serving in this administration. He has a lot of trust on Capitol Hill. But there is this wing, this MAGA wing, isolationist, sort of America First wing, both inside the White House and the administration and on the outside with people like Laura Loomer, who are using the recent signal controversy to try to push Mike Waltz out. So at its core right now, this is a big debate about the future of the Republican and its Republican foreign policy here, guys.
All right, Rachael Bade, Jay O'Brien, we appreciate you both breaking all this down for us. Thanks so much.